Are you looking for all the latest pro football news and content? Of course you are. Who doesn't love football? The question is, how do you get all the latest pro football news and content? There's so many different pro football podcasts on the internet. Which one do you choose? Which one is the right fit for you? Well, you go with the Cross the Middle Show, one of the fastest growing football podcasts out right now. Over the past year, we've climbed the Spotify rankings, become a show you have to listen to if you're a football fan. Find out the Ravens will go all the way with Odell Beckham Jr. Find out if the Eagles did enough to make it back to the Super Bowl. You'll get all of our best stories for just $1 per month. All you have to do is sign up by clicking the link in the episode description box. Welcome back to the Cross the Middle Show. We have another great show for you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit about Davante Adams. We'll also talk about Brock Purdy too. Let's start with Davante Adams. So Davante Adams had a lower leg injury today in practice against the 49ers. He took a hit from Charvarius Ward. Not good for Davante Adams because it's looking like, he's going to be a little banged up. Now, the good news is it doesn't look too serious, but, Davante Adams was sidelined, had a little trouble getting off the field with his own power, had to be helped. Obviously not a great sign for the Raiders. And let's not forget, Davante Adams is already upset that the Raiders don't have Josh Jacobs. He's concerned that Josh Jacobs isn't there. So that's where we're at with Davante Adams and the Raiders. Injured, unhappy with Josh Jacobs not being there. Things are not going great right now for Davante Adams and the Raiders. Now, when it comes to his play on the field, he's phenomenal. There's no debating that. The guy is an incredible talent. We all know what he's capable of. We all know what he did this past year. The best wide receiver in the NFL. Right now, it's just, the injury he's dealing with to the lower leg area. Concerns with Josh Jacobs not being there. There was rumors that Davante Adams might, demand a trade to the Jets at some point and try to reunite with Aaron Rodgers there with the Jets. We don't know how true that is, but, obviously there's some things to keep an eye on with Davante Adams. He's very unhappy with Josh Jacobs not being there. Obviously, this team needs Josh Jacobs to be the best version of themselves because, Josh Jacobs was, the best running back in football this past year. If he's not there, then, Davante Adams feels like the Raiders are wasting their time. He's not happy with that. Might not be happy with the direction the team is going. They get rid of Derek Carr. So, just something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying Davante Adams is ready to pack it up and leave the Raiders just yet. It's just a feeling that we're getting kind of an undertone of everything that's happening with Davante Adams with the Raiders. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see. But for now, the most important thing is how injured is he? Josh McDaniels said it doesn't seem crazy serious. I think that's the way Josh McDaniels put it, which leads me to believe, he'll have a shot to be ready by week 1. Maybe it's just a couple weeks type of deal. But still, he might have a little bit of a nagging injury that he's dealing with. It's something that could, bother him as the season, starts to arrive. That's the last thing you want for someone that's, arguably the best wide receiver in the National Football League and the top offensive weapon for the Raiders, especially with Josh Jacobs not there. It's a concern for this team. There's no doubt about that. Davante Adams is just such a talented player that, if he does miss some time, that seriously jeopardizes the Raiders' chances of having any success this upcoming season. I think that could also spell disaster for Josh McDaniels too, because you don't have Josh Jacobs there. If Davante Adams has to miss a little bit of time, even if it's 2 or 3 games, then I think we're getting really close to kissing Josh McDaniels goodbye because he struggled a lot in that first year. If he falls behind 2 or 3 games with how competitive that division is. You got the Chiefs, who are the Super Bowl champions. You got the Chargers, who are getting a lot better. Sean Payton just went to Denver. I guess Russell Wilson is starting to look like the old Russell Wilson. The division is competitive. And if the Raiders don't have Josh Jacobs or Davante Adams, I mean, you can stick a fork in them. That's just a reality of the situation. I'm not trying to hammer the Raiders too much, but how can you win without Davante Adams or Josh Jacobs? And if you get into a hole early on because Davante Adams isn't there, because Josh Jacobs isn't there, then the whole situation will start to spiral. It's not going to be very good at all, and it could get ugly for the Raiders. I think Davante Adams is maybe a little bit frustrated. Do I think he's faking it? Absolutely not. He wouldn't fake an injury. That's not what he's going to do. But do I think he's a little bit frustrated with the way things are going? There's no doubt about it. He's already put it out there that he's frustrated with how the team handled Josh Jacobs because he wants to win. And, they shipped Derek Carr out. Then they didn't take care of Josh Jacobs. I'm not entirely sure that Davante Adams was sold on the Jimmy Garoppolo signing either. It didn't seem like Davante Adams was too happy about teaming up with Jimmy Garoppolo. From my perspective, I felt like Davante Adams wanted the team to stick with Derek Carr at least over Jimmy Garoppolo. And maybe if they went in a different direction and brought in maybe like a Tom Brady, Davante Adams wouldn't have cared. But I think Davante Adams kind of feels like, the team might have went backwards a little bit because remember, those two played in college together. They were on the same page. Davante Adams was tearing it up, had all those touchdowns a year ago, was locked in with Derek Carr despite the team not having a lot of success overall. But, those two really lit it up. So, yeah, I don't know if Davante Adams is sold on Jimmy Garoppolo or not. He might feel like the team took a step backwards. It's hard to say. I don't know, because he's going to be professional about it and not say how he really feels because he doesn't want to put it out there. But he kind of hinted that he wasn't totally sold on Jimmy Garoppolo either. So keep an eye on the Davante Adams situation. We'll find out whether or not he's upset with the way things are going with the Raiders. Like I said, definitely not faking the injury, but just adding a little bit more to his frustration by getting banged up too. Maybe he will. Maybe people are right. Maybe he will demand a trade at some point and just say the hell with it. I can't help this team anymore, which would certainly spell doom for Josh McDaniels. And not only Josh McDaniels, it would certainly spell doom for the Raiders as well. The other story we have is the Brock Purdy story. So Brock Purdy struggled a little bit against the Raiders in a joint practice. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. Remember, Brock Purdy's coming back from it's an elbow injury. And he's still getting up to speed, getting back in the swing of things, doing his best to try to get back to where he was at the end of this past year before he got hurt against the Eagles. But obviously he's got a little bit of a journey ahead of him because he is struggling a little bit in training camp, at least at these joint practices against the Raiders. I'm not saying it's Sam Darnold or Trey Lance time yet, but Brock Purdy, can he be the same Brock Purdy that we saw a year ago when he basically lit it up for the 49ers and went on this epic run and helped them go on a nice little playoff run? And, he was individually lighting it up. Well, he's not there yet. That's what we know now. That makes you wonder, was it a fluke? Was Brock Purdy a fluke? I don't think he was. I think it's just the injury that's holding him back. But can he ever recover? That's the other thing. Can he ever recover and get back to the Brock Purdy that he once was? Because that's what the 49ers are expecting from him. They want to see him be the same Brock Purdy that he once was, a guy that put the team on his back and really balled out at the quarterback position, a guy that brought out the best of George Kittle. If that doesn't happen, suddenly the 49ers are kind of like, where do we go from here? Do we lean on Sam Darnold to be the guy? Do we try to finally give Trey Lance a chance? I'm not sold on Trey Lance at all. He's never been able to seize the moment since they've drafted him. Jimmy Garoppolo beat him out. Anytime he got a shot to play, he's gotten hurt. He keeps fumbling the job away to other quarterbacks, which isn't a good sign. Obviously, if he was really a great player, he would have took that job and ran with it from day one. 49ers fans for some reason like to just dog Jimmy Garoppolo and say Jimmy Garoppolo's not good. Well, if he's not good, how come Trey Lance never really beat him out? That's just the reality of the situation. Trey Lance couldn't beat out Jimmy Garoppolo, and the reality is Jimmy Garoppolo always outperformed Trey Lance when he was on the field. Jimmy Garoppolo took that team to a Super Bowl. He took them on a deep playoff run to the NFC Championship game. I'm not a casual fan that's going to sit here and say Jimmy Garoppolo's a bad football player. The reality is he's not. He's a good football player because he wouldn't have had all that success. He wouldn't have won all those games with the 49ers if he wasn't a good quarterback. Well, now it's Brock Purdy's time, and they thought they had something there with Brock Purdy just because Brock Purdy was so good this past year, and just his ability to, create plays and, dump the football off to his playmakers and, get this offense to come alive. Those were the things that made Brock Purdy so exciting in that first year, where he captured the moment and everybody was rooting for him just because, this Mr. Irrelevant last pick in the draft, stepped into the starting lineup and was able to deliver the goods for this team. Well, now he's not delivering the goods, at least not yet. So it's like, how long do the 49ers wait? Do they stay patient with him and keep him as the number one guy and just say, hey, this is due to his arm injury? He rushed back a little bit sooner than he probably should have. We have to take that into account. There was doubts whether or not he was even going to play this upcoming season at all. Now he's already back. He rushed back to be there because he knew that in order to keep his job, he had to be on the field, just because, that's how the NFL works. It's so competitive. If you're not able to play, the game can surpass you very, very quickly in this league. Sam Darnold could have took the job and ran with it. Trey Lance could have took the job and ran with it. Brock Purdy's not stupid. He knows that could have happened. That's why he rushed back. He probably came back sooner than he should have. He's still knocking off the rust a little bit. 3 interceptions against the Raiders, turning the ball over too much. Doesn't look like the same Brock Purdy. And now that's where we find ourselves with the 49ers. They still got the really good defense. They're still loaded with talent. George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, weapons all over the place. We know that. They just need a quarterback that can step up for them and make the most out of everything. That's always kind of been the Achilles heel for this team since Kyle Shanahan took over. If Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, the season would unravel because the next quarterback up, usually failed to step up and do his thing for this team. If Jimmy Garoppolo went down, that was basically it. You could stick a fork in this team. Well, this team was supposed to have a legitimate shot at being a true contender with Brock Purdy. They probably would have been a lot better off against the Eagles if he didn't get hurt. No probably about it. They would have been. When he got hurt against the Eagles in that playoff game, that basically doomed the 49ers. They didn't have anybody in that game after that. There was reports that came out that if the 49ers would have beat the Eagles, they were going to sign Phillip Rivers. Jimmy Garoppolo said he wanted to come back for that Super Bowl and play too. But that just shows what the 49ers situation really is. It's kind of almost like a revolving door situation at the quarterback position. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo would get hurt, come back, get hurt, come back. Another quarterback, you know, out of nowhere would come in, whether it was, Brock Purdy, whether it was Trey Lance. There's been other guys there in the past. I think like CJ Beathard was there at one point. Who's that other guy? Nick something. Nick Mullins, I think it was. I think he was there for a little bit. It's just been so sporadic at the quarterback position that you just never know what you're going to get from the 49ers at quarterback. They thought they were going to take care of these problems when they drafted Trey Lance. Trey Lance has been a bust up until this point. It's almost like, should they have kept Jimmy Garoppolo? I know the fan base will push back on that and be like, no, Jimmy's not good, blah, blah, blah. I just don't know if I agree with that, because you look at their situation and it's not going good right now. I think they would like to have Jimmy Garoppolo right now just to provide some stability at the quarterback position, because we don't know what's going to come next for the 49ers at quarterback. Let's just hope that Brock Purdy can get healed up and be the same Brock Purdy that we're used to seeing. That's all I got for this latest episode of the Cross the Middle Show. I'm John Kuzma. Check out the latest episode anywhere podcasts are found. You can also sign up for just $1 per month by clicking the link in the episode description box. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.